Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token Podcast, episode 46. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan. Staring out the window.
Well, I'm Pawel.
And we have a guest on the show, first time ever. We've got Dave, who's part of your gaming group.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi Dave, how you doing?
I'm alright.
How are you lads doing?
Alright.
I'm usually much more than, awesome and stuff.
Kind of a bit, spaced out and sort of generally, yeah.
I can tell you can't even finish a sentence.
I've basically worked a solid day and then another day and then just come straight back into to play a board game, and my head feels a wee bit shrunken.
Oh yeah, because we have just literally finished playing a board game.
Which was fantastic.
Which was excellent. Yeah, excellent game. So yes, we've got a tabletop episode for you. Now I'm saying tabletop because we're going to let Pawel talk about an RPG.
Mainly because we're getting this in by the skin of our teeth and we've only played one.
It's been a busy week.
So what they're really saying is that they're giving me scraps. They can't fill the episode with whatever board game, so they're like, yeah, just talk about RPG. We have nothing better to do.
Pawel, stop giving away our secrets.
It's fine, I'll take it.
You're just here to provide filler.
Well, we're giving you
I'm a sideshow.
More than a scrap-sized portion here,
Yeah.
so you might as well...
Pawel's like a filler episode of a TV series.
I always felt that, yes.
Lower quality content,
No,
but you're still getting your hit.
No plot points resolved.
Yeah, nothing going on there.
So long as I have a couple of watchers, I'm good.
Okay, so we'll launch straight into it. We've only got a couple of things to talk about here. So we're just going to talk about the game that we just played, which is Dead of Winter, a Crossroads game. Now, this is by Plaid Hat Games. It's designed by Isaac Vega and John Gilmore, who invented the Crossroads system, I believe.
Oh, so is that what you meant by Crossroads?
You said a Crossroads game.
Yeah, that's
what
the
did you
system
even
used
mean
to
by
be.
that?
Yeah, when this thing, I think this is the very first Crossroads game that came out.
Right.
It's nothing to do with that British TV series, Crossroads, which would be hilarious if it was.
That'd be a strange reference to make.
But yeah, I mean, they've got this whole system of Crossroads, which is basically where the player before you has basically got a card in their hand, and if certain things you do in your turn meet the criteria on that card, then something triggers and something happens. And it's very thematic and it's full of story, and they're generally quite specific about when things happen. But this is, it's Dead of Winter. It's a zombie game, as you might guess with a name like that. And it's a game where you're controlling a colony of survivors. And you've got different goals depending on which scenario you choose to play. And there's various scenarios in there. Some of them are short, medium, long. So you can decide how long you want the game to be. But the idea in this game is that you've got to fulfill the scenario objectives, but you also, every player has their own secret objective. And in order to be able to win the game, you need to fulfill that secret objective. Now, they've also thrown in the possibility of there being a traitor.
Yes, Dave's a traitor.
Dave, this is why we've got him on.
Aye, we want to bring a traitor on the show.
We want a traitor's point of view.
I'm here to provide that.
But so they've thrown in this thing where you might get given a card, and it's a very low chance. There can only ever be one traitor in the game. But there is a chance that there will be a traitor there, and they'll be actively working against the colony and in secret. So nobody knows if anybody else is a traitor. It brings up that Battlestar Galactica feel of things where you don't know who the Cylons are. Although in Battlestar Galactica it does tend to become a bit more obvious as the game goes on, whereas in this, it can be... The way that the game's set up, it can be much more difficult to try and figure out who's a traitor and who isn't.
Yeah. Well, it's got individual objectives as well, which kind of throws you off the centre.
That's what I'm saying. Aye. So everybody's got their own objective, but one person could be a traitor with a traitor objective. Okay, Pawel.
Hello.
You're a big fan of this game.
I've played it numerous times so far.
So tell us, how does this game work?
I'm quite proud of the fact that it's I've completely ruined it for everybody today. Because this game, in this game, you're supposed to stock up on stuff and survive whilst not making noise. Apparently zombies are attracted to that instead of meat. Or possibly they assume that where there is noise, there is food, which might be true. We've got completely eaten up today. It was fun. I also wanted to mention that the character that made enough noise for us to lose was a ninja. And he was making noise in the library. So, you know what?
So you can find a book.
I never even thought about that. A ninja making noise in a library.
If you think about it, you know what? We deserved it.
Yeah, we deserve to lose that game if that's the kind of shit that we're getting up to.
No, but he was probably looking for a scroll or something.
Oh yeah, probably.
Couldn't find anything. He just got distracted. It's fine. Yeah. But yeah, essentially you're holed up in a survivor colony with nobody but a couple of people that want to eat. There is no food, there's no weapons, there is zombies around. Your food, so you decide you want to do takeaway for zombies. So you walk out, start searching for dishes and other things like this. Zombies get attracted to the noise you make, and sometimes they just bite you as you walk along to various destinations. There are, I think, predetermined decks of various kinds of equipment and other items and sometimes events in each of the 6 locations on the board. And your survivors, as their actions, can search through those decks or fight zombies in those locations or fight the traitorous survivors that you know for a fact are betraying you. In a very obvious way, Dave. So what happens then is every player at the beginning of the round would have rolled their dice, as many dice as they have survivors in their entourage. +1.
+1.
Yeah?
You get an extra one as well.
And those dice essentially become your possible actions. Each of the characters has attributes, and the dice, depending how you rolled them, can serve you as attack dice or surge dice, or I don't actually think you probably use dice for some other things.
You can use them for barricading things up.
locations.
You can clean up the mess that you've made, because cleaning up the mess keeps people happy.
Aesthetics are very important in post-apocalyptic settings, yes.
Oh yeah.
And there is a number of actions you can take which do not require specific dice. So if you see Dave coming up with a group of 17, which I'm sure was the correct number, survivors in a manner of 2 turns, then you know for a fact that he's coming up with a gang that's going to attempt to pretty much riot and take over the colony. I'm sure this was your plan, Dave.
It was.
Yeah, well,
I was sure you were the traitor, though.
all I've done...
On the basis of the person who's making the most noise throughout the entire game.
in the library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I made a hell of a lot of noise. In fact, I think I made the most noise, but I made sure I didn't make too much noise. Whereas Pawel made noise in situations that were going to end up crippling us.
I don't think Pawel was fully aware of how important the noise thing can be, because he did seem to be doing it quite frivolous.
To my defense, this was the first and only time I've ever made noise in this game, so, well, hey.
But basically, the noise thing's quite an interesting thing, because at the end of every round, you've got to add more zombies to the board. Now, while you're searching for stuff in the different locations, you can make noise to try and find better stuff using the same action. But every time you make noise, at the end of the round, you'll add a zombie in for every colonist in each location, but every noise marker that's on that location you roll a die for, and if it's 3 or less, you've got to add another zombie. Now, it's only a 6-sided die, so it's a 50-50 chance.
I actually thought the chance was much smaller than that.
Oh no, it's 3 or less, Pawel.
Because I just got quite
You are
greedy.
fully aware of this. Don't even lie.
Being a traitor and everything.
Basically, you've insisted that Dave come on this episode so you can scapegoat him. This is what's happened. I'm starting to see this now. I can't believe I've fallen for this.
Okay, yeah.
One interesting thing I would say about actually just the kind of setup of the game, then, because you were mentioning it there in terms of building up a crew, it does very much feel like, and I don't think I'd really picked up on this earlier when we played this game before, but it's like you as a player, you're almost a faction in part of this sort of colony of survivors, because the survivors that you control, you can sort of pass quite freely items between them and everything like that, and you have sort of full control over them, and they are sort of getting you to your objective essentially, so you can get the feeling of like building up a little crew of folk. It must be quite satisfying if you are the traitor. and just have just take over through sheer
Just
numbers.
a massive team of people. Because we should probably explain that as you're like searching these locations, you might find other survivors who will then join your group. But it becomes more mouths to feed and stuff like that. You can end up finding helpless survivors who don't do anything other than eat your food, and getting rid of those is bad because you lose morale every time somebody dies. It doesn't matter if they're a helpless survivor or an actual helpful survivor. Now, it's a really interesting game. It's one of these things where I said this while we were playing the game, but it's a truly semi-cooperative game. Probably the most semi-cooperative game I've ever played. Which, I mean, it's a really strange term, that, because
it's like saying the most medium-sized man.
The most medium-sized man, yeah. Because you're really working towards your own goal. You cannot win the game unless you fulfill your own goal.
Yeah.
And fulfilling your own goal can really go against what the colony needs at a certain time. So, in that game we just played, we had a couple of crisis cards come out. So you draw a crisis card at the start of every round, and you have to try and do what it says. And it's usually stockpiling certain types of items. So it might be fuel or food or medicine. And if you don't do that,
which we almost never did.
I'm just now realising that we lost the game because of Chris.
No, we lost the game because
thank you for that. Thank you for
we lost the game because of Pawel. Actually,
I'm starting to see that there's a case to be made for.
Yes,
for Chris.
okay, understandably there can be a case made, but the thing is, it was do or die at that point. Okay, we needed to stockpile fuel, but my main quest was to stockpile fuel, and I had 3 fuel cards in my hand, and we needed 3 fuel cards in the end of the crisis thing.
Majority of our crisis, in fact, because we had 3 crisis cards that we drew, and 2 of them were with fuel. And thank you very much. I rest my case.
I didn't have
Euan's as well.
I didn't have any fuel. Before that, when that first round, the first crisis card that came out, I had nothing. I found all that fuel in the round that we lost, basically. But the thing is, us failing that crisis was not what lost us the game. It was adding the zombies in because of the noise that Pawel made that lost us the game. All right, I'm resting my case there.
Right.
I was quite happy with the idea that we could deal with hordes of zombies turning up in the colony, but not in the locations. And that's what lost us the game.
I'm actually... You know what? We actually lost the game because our colony just lost all its morale. Most of it just went because survivors kept dying left and right.
I mean, if we're going to go on technically what actually
we should probably
pretty much
blame the die.
It's going to be down to
the red die
re-rolling on the tooth.
Yeah.
On the exposure.
Yeah, so
let's mention that mechanic.
Yeah, there is an exposure die in the game. So basically, whenever you do anything that involves, if you move from one location to another, or you fight a zombie, or some other things might trigger it, like certain Crossroads cards, you have to roll an exposure die. And that exposure die has got, is it 6 or 7 blank sides, possibly? It's a 12-sided die, I believe.
Yeah.
It's got 6 or 7 blank sides, and there's a few sides that have got a wound mark on it. There's a side that's got a frostbite marker on it, and there's a side that's got a tooth marker on it.
Which we just kept rolling today.
Each of your characters has only got 3 wounds, basically, so if you take 3 wounds, they die. If you get a frostbite marker, that's really bad, because then they just keep taking wounds every turn after that, until you can heal it using medicine. But if you get the tooth rolled, you've been bitten and you're dead. But the problem there is that the other players then have to decide whether they're going to risk letting this bite spread. So it goes down to an initiative thing. The characters have all got an initiative number on it. Whoever's in that location where a survivor's been bitten, the person with the lowest initiative has to decide whether they're going to just kill that person or they're going to roll the die again and risk the bite spreading even further. If you kill the person, the bite stops. It does not spread any longer. If you roll the die again, the chances are the person is going to die anyway, and then the next person with the lowest initiative has to roll to see if they get bitten and die as well. Which can cause some hilarious situations where multiple people can die in one turn, which will just drain the morale. Yeah. It did happen to us. We lost 2 people in one turn because I rather foolishly.
Oh yes, this is the part of the game I missed. How many rolls did you get through before you got bitten?
I got to the last one. So we got a Crossroads card out where something happened with a crate that had dropped from a plane, and I decided to go out and try and get it, but I had to roll the exposure die 3 times. Got 2 blanks, the last die, bitten, dead. And then it was in the colony as well, so there was 6 people in the colony, so it went to the next person, which was your Forest Plum, the mall Santa. He rolled it and he died. And then I think we rolled again for the next person, but I think it was one of Pawel's, possibly?
It was the mum, yes.
Yes.
And she bravely survived.
And she bravely
That's what
survived.
she
But
does.
Pawel took... Well, we had no option at that point. We had one morale left. We lost one more person. We were all done. So, yeah.
I think the only person that's not caused the morale of the colony to fall was the traitor, Dave.
That is true.
So it's important to remember that.
I think it's also important to remember that Dave wasn't actually a traitor. It was just that Pawel was accusing him the whole game of being a traitor and tried to vote to exile him from the colony.
Yeah, I was disappointed that failed, actually.
So, Dave, how did that make you feel? I want you to give Pawel everything he deserves here.
Please do.
Well, I mean, I was pretty upset about that. I've considered Pawel a good friend for...
For all those games when you backstabbed me.
Would you say he was your best friend, Dave?
Well...
The squishiest target.
I would, Chris. But unfortunately, that has changed. You're now my second best friend.
So not the arch enemy yet.
No.
Okay, that's fine then.
It's good to know that betraying each other in a board game can actually build the bonds outside of the board game as well, though.
Break the bonds, you mean?
I think it can strengthen.
Well, yes, broken bones heal. Heal better.
Well, when you become sort of fused in some way, like that's a bond that you can't really.
Are you speaking metaphorically there?
No, I mean like a pair of you punching each other so hard that your bones actually become
Okay, yeah.
just locked into each other.
So is that essentially what board games tend to do to people? Because I've not tried this particular gameplay yet.
Well, none of us have reached the age to see the end result of board gaming. We will do.
All right, yeah. No, my parents were quite convinced that this is the end.
Was that Dungeons and Dragons and stuff by any chance?
I've never even touched Dungeons and Dragons. That's for kiddies.
That's because you weren't allowed to.
No, it's just there's so many better RPGs out there.
No,
Right,
that's
okay.
just Dungeons or Dragons touch you as a kid.
Right. I misunderstood there. Well, this is... I've played Dead of Winter quite a few times. This is another one of these games that's really high up on my list of games. I always have a hell of a lot of fun playing this game. It's always interesting. There's lots of petty bickering that I love that goes on. You get the same sort of feel as like Battlestar Galactica and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just pointing fingers of accusation at people and being like, why the hell have you done that? And it's understandable because everybody has to be kind of selfish when they're playing this game if they want to win.
And there's not a lot of room for making sort of like doing. There's very little you can do on your turn.
Yeah.
If you look at like you've got your action dice are like the number of characters you have plus one. So it's really the other character. If you can have like more characters and have one of them do lots of stuff, but then those other characters are just an extra burden on your colony. Essentially, it's just.
Well, that's it.
Just because.
I mean, and the thing is that it's one of those games, like, getting more characters is definitely a good thing, especially, like, with some scenarios. Like, the scenario we were playing, we could have done with a hell of a lot more characters, I think.
Yeah.
Because we did one where you basically had to burn through the item decks in 2 different locations. We got nowhere near that. We got absolutely nowhere near it because, well, Dave was pissing about with his 5 guys. And Euan,
I went to the wrong place.
Euan went to the wrong place.
Kind of realised immediately, this was a stupid place.
Majority of our survivors were really in the colony doing nothing.
In fact, I feel like me and Pawel were the only 2 people that were actually trying to burn location decks.
I contributed a lot to the crises. Not to any great effect, but I did contribute.
I spent most of the gameplay just throwing accusations, so it was good fun.
Right, now we've played this game before. Right,
Yes.
3 of us, me, you and Pawel. Dave, this was your first time playing it.
It was, yes.
What were your thoughts on that?
I really enjoyed it. In particular, we haven't mentioned the Crossroads cards. I found them quite fascinating. The way that they come out, but they activate based on certain preconditions, so they may or may not activate. And often those conditions are to do with which survivors you have in your party. So they're very thematic.
Yeah.
I found, and the ones that came out were quite interesting.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, the one that we went for there was at the end that basically did us in going for the supply drop. I think what kind of swayed it for us was the fact that you had, because essentially it was like a Chinese supply drop, and if you had this character out, she could translate it and it gave you extra morale, so it kind of,
Yeah, I think that was what that one morale point
seemed
really attractive at that time. When we had 3 morale.
5 food as well, and we had plenty of people to feed.
But by the end of that card, we had 1 morale. Because 2 people died because of that card.
Which shows that situation can change really rapidly in this game, which is also part of the exciting.
And yes, it does. It's one of these games where in one turn you feel very safe, and then in the next turn you feel like you are about to just lose the entire game. And it does just flip so quickly.
Well, it piles the pressure on pretty constantly. I mean, you've got a crisis to deal with every round.
Yeah.
You've got zombies coming in every round. You know, it's just constant, and you got to feed everybody. And it's sometimes like some games will split that up a little bit and give you a bit of breathing. This one doesn't at all. You're just hit with everything every round, and that did become. Yeah, I mean, I had a character with frostbite, and it was just like constantly just trying to keep him alive. It was horrendous.
Loved it. We'll play again.
The Crossroads is definitely probably the most interesting sort of thing, because it does a lot of things that other games do. You know, the traitor,
the traitor mechanic,
like that. So the Crossroads is something that gives it a bit of flavour and a bit of its own unique feeling. Yeah,
you're right. And another thing I will say is that zombie games are a bit, you know, when people think of zombie board games, you're just thinking they're all the same, really, just about killing zombies. But the emphasis in this game isn't really on killing zombies. It's more about the survival side of things.
Yeah,
resolving crisis and stuff like that, feeding colony, and because of it, you can get nicely distracted.
Killing zombies is fun.
Oh,
but if that's what the whole
if
game's
you're a ninja in a library.
If that's what the whole game's about, I'm a bit less inclined to want to play them. We played one. Was it Last Night on Earth or something? Did we play? Was it?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I've never been a big fan of these kind of move about the board shooting because they just play a video game. Like they don't justify themselves to exist really. Whereas this is a bit more. Yeah, it's a bit more thematic. It involves the players in a more interesting way. And the zombies are just there as kind of... The emphasis isn't on fighting them because of the way that they appear on the board. It's more just there a challenge for each area that you're in, and that it's just like a mounting kind of danger, essentially.
Zombie management.
Yeah, zombie management.
It sort of is, actually, if you think about it, yeah.
Zombie Manager 2017.
It's a very nicely thematic game. It melds with its genre well, or with its theme very well.
It's obviously massively influenced by. It's presumably off the back of like Walking Dead and stuff like that, and it does make references. We brought up the fact that the chemist and the school kid, the Breaking Bad reference.
Yeah, there is. In fact, it's a pretty strong Breaking Bad reference. There is one Crossroads card which is basically reading a script for Breaking Bad. But yeah, there are some quite interesting things in there, and like you say, the Crossroads thing is the thing that makes this game what it is, I think. Now, one thing I will say is that there is a standalone expansion for this, which I've been wanting to get, but, you know, money, which is called Dead of Winter, The Long Night. Now, so you can buy either game, and you can play them on their own, but you can just mix them both in together. And it adds, the Dead of Winter Long Night adds new locations, new survivors, new Crossroads cards, pretty much everything that you get in that box. Okay. But you can just make one mega game out of it if you like. So yeah, it's something it's been on my list for a while, and I'm seriously considering picking that up. So if I do, look out for more chat about that in the future.
Awesome. Okay,
so that's Dead of Winter, a Crossroads game by Plaid Hat Games and designed by Isaac Vega and John Gilmore. And that came out in 2014. And A Long Night came out last year, that was 2016. Okay, so let's move on. Pavel.
Hello.
We're going to allow you to talk about your RPG now.
I thank you so much.
It's becoming a habit.
It is becoming a habit. We need to play more games. That's the thing. This is the catalyst, alright? This is the thing we need.
This is what spurs us on to play more board.
So I'm here like every week threatening you with RPG, and you're just losing your ground now.
I'm sure there's at least one person out there that's interested in this, so...
Yeah. Hello, one person. Right, let's talk about a big one. And we're talking about a book that's recently been released, which is probably about 3 kilo. I think 600 to 700 pages worth of amazing reading. But that's because this particular game or series of games has got a lot of history behind it. Mage the Ascension is a game set in a modern or quasi-modern times, where you play as mages, will walkers, or just whatever you call people that can actually change reality with their minds and other powers. I should say that Mage originally got released along with its sibling games in the 90s. The first edition of Vampire the Masquerade, which was the very first game in the line of World of Warcraft. What? World of Darkness, thank you.
Don't mention World of Warcraft.
No, I don't know. That just slipped. The World of Darkness by White Wolf consists of originally 5 titles: Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Mage the Ascension, Wraith the something, and Changeling the Dreaming. What? Wraith the
Rovers.
Wraith the Finds.
Wraith the something. Yes. So that was 1991 for Vampire the Masquerade First Edition.
1991.
Yes, 1991. Mage the Ascension First Edition, 1993. Beautiful year, 1993. I remember it well. And it's been going through so many various editions, and so much money White Wolf has taken off all of us. Thank you very much. There's been so many spin-offs. In all fairness, White Wolf is probably one of the richest, or used to be one of the richest bloody RPG releasing company. Thank you very much for all the golden years.
Where are they based? Are they American? Are they?
They would be, yes. To the point where at some point in the past, I'm going to say 15, 20 years, they've decided, let's release another style or type of World of Darkness setting, and they've re-released all these titles, even though they had 3 editions each at least. In a completely different setting, take some of the mechanics, some of the world settings, and just mix it up again. And then a couple of years ago, they've decided, you know what, the old World of Warcraft was actually very popular. There is a lot of nostalgia. Let's release the 20th anniversary edition and get some more money. And obviously, I spent it because I needed some of those versions. And yes, I think this calls for a Euan shout. Is it just your regular nerds? Yeah, no.
I don't often do that these days.
No, I still I do associate it with you.
I think when you talk about RPGs, it's almost like an immersion thing where I can't pick out the point to say nerds, because I might as well just be screaming it from the minute you start speaking to the minute you stop.
Marvellous. Thank you for that. No, that's good, because this is essentially what it was all about.
So what, I'm slightly lost. This is a reworking of the original, or is this a new edition?
The 20th anniversary edition essentially compiles previous editions of Mage the Ascension and puts all the rules and all the meta plots together, and that's why it's so
takes out some
huge.
of the chaff.
Possibly, yeah. So, okay, World of Warcraft. Sorry, Jesus, World of Darkness.
You did say World of Warcraft earlier, and I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
World of Darkness. Thank you so much.
I thought I'd imagined it, to be honest. But
As a shared universe which you play in as members of various supernatural races. Hence the 5 leading book lines in the White Wolf franchise. Mage the Ascension is possibly the most mature of them all, although some people might disagree, because the themes in the game don't tend to, I'm going to say, grow old. If you're playing Werewolf, you're essentially playing an eco-terrorist who just fights against the pollution in the world and big corporations and the like. If you're playing a vampire, essentially you just you're a teenager and you're in your emo stage of life, which I've spent many years in. when you're playing Mage the Ascension, you're talking about physics, you're talking about even quantum physics, you're talking about spirituality, you're talking about sociology. This game is deconstructing and reconstructing pretty much every aspect of, I'm going to say, your intellectual disputes with your friends, and you can just lose yourself in it. Every aspect of your emotional or intellectual life can be touched upon in this game. So very, very mature themes. But in terms of mechanics, essentially you're playing characters who have awakened in the supernatural world and discovered powers to alter the paradigm of, the tapestry, which would be the way things are. Because the way things are is the way we humans see the world around us. You find yourself as a player a member of 9 mystical traditions, each of them usually specializing in one particular facet of how to do magic. And you're surrounded by various enemies which tend to lean towards various extremes of how to shape the world. Whereas the mages of the 9 mystical traditions tend to believe that magic as such and world development, I'm going to say, should be dynamic and free. All the remaining 3 factions are essentially seen as either evil or unpredictable enough to be evil, which are either the technocracy, which is your very scientific approach to magic as such, but also reality, the way to control its development and future. You get your marauders, which are essentially just maniacs and madmen, and you get your Nefandi, which are your evil mages. And I never really knew what to do with Nefandi properly, because they are that's just a trope of the evil necromancer / summoner of demons and the like. There is no real place, in my opinion, for evil in a game like Mage, because it's way too deep for that, whereas Nefandi tend to be like it, and maybe someday I'll discover what to do with it.
You were saying that it seems more about sort of magic that affects reality rather than making monsters.
Yeah, but if you think about magic, and this is important in Mage the Ascension, there's never probably been a mage character created that actually looks or behaves like a magic user from your regular RPG game, who would be a Gandalf sort of person or some other sort of Dumbledore. Whereas characters in Mage the Ascension are closer to whatever Neo from Matrix or Morpheus for that matter.
We have an episode title.
Some sort of Dumbledore.
Some sort of Dumbledore.
Which Mage the Ascension is very far away from.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I mean, that's presumably like an evil objective in that game would just be to like collapse reality.
Yes, well, any game in the White Wolf setting, shared world of darkness, has always has to deal with the fact that humans are actually never really seen any werewolves or wizards running on the streets. So each of these settings, each of these games will have a certain rule to prevent it. So vampires have their masquerade, which is a set of laws governing, hide from humans, because otherwise they might just burn us all. Werewolves will have a supernatural way of hiding their presence from humans when they slaughter bad corporations. And mages can't really do their magic in front of the sleepers, the unawakened masses, because the strength of their static belief in what reality is in the modern age is too strong for yourself to deal with on your own, so you're just gonna attempt to do it, badly fail, and kill yourself. Paradox is the sort of anti-power and this setting. The rules behind magic are a huge part of this game, obviously, and to the point where various other settings of the World of Warcraft partially take from it. There is 9 different spheres of magic, let's say, and each of them...
You say that again, Pawel.
Did I say World of Warcraft? Holy shit. Sorry.
You really want to play World of Warcraft.
Aye. There's something subconscious going on here.
you know what, I should stop it because I feel ashamed. I mean, World of Darkness has been
World of Darkness
has been a huge part of my childhood. I grew up on the bloody thing, and now I'm just botching this. Jesus.
So World of Darkness, the new Kiefer Sutherland album.
Yeah.
He recorded with his blues combo.
Once you've seen the system of magic used in this game, you essentially look down at any other RPG book where magic spells are, things like this. In here, you've got a couple hundred pages devoted to various facets of what you can do with reality, whether it's a sphere of time, which would obviously be all about time manipulation. Forces would be about various types of, well, just look into your physics book. You're going to have your correspondence, which is all about relativity and distances and things like this. You're going to have entropy, which is a sphere of magic, all about the natural order of things progressing towards, well, entropy. Essentially, you'll have your matter, spirit, various other again, facets of reality like this, and then your character will essentially be skilled in some of these spheres of magic, and depending on your knowledge of these spheres, you'll be able to do just about whatever you like, as long as your ability to affect these spheres of magic is high enough.
Yeah, Pawel, I just want to ask, so you quite often play, you quite often tell us at the weekends that you're doing role playing and stuff like that, okay? So you're not available at weekends, most weekends, because you're role playing, yes?
Yes, very much so.
Now, I might regret asking this question.
Please.
Okay, but which games, is this one of the games that you actually play?
No.
I
love Mage the Ascension, but it's I don't get to play too often nowadays.
No, because I'm really wondering what it is you actually do.
Well,
and this is why I might regret asking this question.
No, we usually tend to play either Blue Planet, which is the water punk, the cyberpunk on a water world, or various fantasy games. Whereas it's Warhammer, which is one of the more popular ones, or Shadows of Esterin, which is one I picked up recently, which is really cool, or something. Just there's a number of them. We sometimes play Shadowrun. Nowadays, sometimes Fading Suns. I'm not sure if you've heard of. Yes,
I think you talked about Fading Suns actually.
May have, yeah. You know what? I've got a couple of shelves devoted to RPGs at home, and
I mean, the only reason I'm asking is because I feel like you bring RPGs on to talk about in this, all right, which is fine, okay, but you never seem to play any of the ones that you talk about. And it almost feels like you come here as your outlet for these things to tell everybody about them.
That's a good point.
You don't have anybody to play with.
Aww, now I feel sad.
Do you want a game of Coriolis?
I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm not trying to be cruel. It's just,
it's fine.
It's just an interesting pattern I've noticed.
No, I suppose picking RPGs up is a very you commit yourself to an RPG because you stay with the setting for years, so you can't be playing hundreds of them. Whereas I'm always interested in new
not with that attitude.
Well, I mean, the amount of time that we've spent on Pathfinder and haven't really gone anywhere that far through of what we're doing. It's
we don't really play that often, to be fair. So it's been months. Since
we've had a fair few sessions, and it feels like we've only really progressed a little way. So I don't know.
No, we have a simple rule at home, which is essentially if there's time, we play RPG. Anything else is secondary to that.
Fair enough. Pawel has a list of priorities, which RPG's at the top. Talking sense is somewhere down at the bottom.
Pretty much.
Anything else, Dad? That made you essential?
I've just started.
You've just started? Oh no.
But I should probably stop here because there's so much to talk about when it comes to Mage, and I'd have to go into all the details about it. And White Wolf as such is a huge topic as well, with some very well known mechanics that have both strengths and weaknesses. But we might as well do it some other time because
you were saying about the different. So each kind of RPG is based on a specific So you got your werewolves, like one about werewolves and one about.
World of Darkness.
But they're all set in the same world. Is there any crossover in playing them?
Quite often, they all meet each other, but they are each other's natural enemies. So, and you don't tend to do it too much because you would. If you do, the games lose their flavour. I mean, Vampire the Masquerade will have its very specific flavour, and for as long as you keep to it, everything feels well enough.
But there's a potential there, presumably, for at least building if you wanted to, and you could put the time into like building a narrative across these.
The setting is fully, apart from Wraith, which essentially takes place in the the world of the dead, wherever souls go to when they don't fully die but aren't alive yet. I mean, anymore.
It's a common mistake.
Yeah,
No.
But the remaining 4 races at least mingle with people a bit, and you can do it. The setting is there to create to make crossovers like this.
That appeals.
Some storytellers I should say that game masters are called storytellers in White Wolf, World of Darkness. It's just sometimes it just takes away from the flavor, because if you're playing a vampire character, you usually there's a lot of history behind it. There are a lot of various other tropes that you would identify with in this particular thing. If a werewolf will always see a vampire as an undead minion of the worm, which is the spiritual sort of god / demon of poison and darkness and destroying the world. Werewolves are quite, I'm going to say, stubborn at this, so it's going to have a completely different flavour if you mix those two up.
Okay.
Same with mages and werewolves, and there's changelings as well. Again, a very different style of running a session, so I tend not to do it too often.
Okay, so that's Mage the Ascension.
Yes, part
Which
of
by White
World
Wolf.
of War. World.
You did it again!
It's because you were talking about the verb.
I'm leaving now.
Dave, do you want to finish this off for him?
I had a quick question.
Please.
Oh yeah, go for it. Sorry.
Please.
Mage the Ascension. In this game, you play a mage, yes?
Yes, you play the Awakened, essentially.
And do you undertake endeavours with sort of clearly delineated objectives, perhaps, as part of playing this game?
An excellent question.
As in, do you get quests? No, I'm not sure.
I wouldn't describe it that way, but I mean, would you?
If you care to.
choose to describe.
What Dave's asking is this game Magequest?
Right. Yeah.
Right. We're going to have to explain that now.
Okay. Please.
So, Magequest is a fictional board game, which we made up, and this is just a really crap in joke.
Well, we need to start building these up on the podcast.
Yeah, we do.
Now,
We need to start building up crap
getting
in
them in
jokes. So, yeah, Magequest. When people come round here to play board games and we talk about which game we're going to play, somebody always suggests Magequest because it doesn't exist. Maybe it does exist. I don't know. That's the thing. But it's
sounds
not
like
a
it
game
could.
that we own. All right.
It might have just formed in one of your cupboards.
Yeah, and I can't remember where this in-joke came from or anything like that. I get the feeling somebody may have called Mage Knight Magequest at one point. Probably, because you could call
Most
it that,
these things
to be
start
honest.
off with an innocent mistake that's pounced upon.
But yeah, so Dave is asking, is this Magequest?
No. This game does exist.
Thanks for that input, Dave. I knew it was going to be good getting you on this episode. It was going to be well worthwhile. Right, let's finish that there. That is Mage the Ascension by World of Warcraft.
Yes, it's White Wolf is obviously heavily involved with Blizzard, and they just make a world of something.
Well, no, actually, White Wolf Publishing, I'm just reading here, they were bought over by Paradox Interactive, the video game company.
Yeah, there's been...
Does that mean that there's going to be some video games coming out in these settings, you think?
There were attempts to make ports. In fact, there were a couple of games set in World of Darkness. The most famous one is Vampire Bloodlines, or Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Oh, yeah,
I've played that.
That's set in Vampire the Masquerade world, which is
I've played that.
part of World of Darkness. So, and people are hoping that this is going to get remade slash just franchise made alive yet again. Recently, somebody has, I can't remember whom, possibly White Wolf itself, because it's sort of been reborn, has announced that they're going to actually make a Werewolf the Apocalypse game. So looking forward to that. One of our favourite settings.
Okay, well, thanks very much.
I'll be back.
All right, Arnie, thanks very much.
Books.
So yeah, let's move on. We're going to do one other quick thing now. We're going to give a Gloomhaven update because
Well, these are becoming common.
yeah, Gloomhaven is rocketing up the rankings in Board Game Geek. I think it's hit the top 10.
I was going to say, I thought it was already up there, but it's just taking a bit of time to filter
It does
through,
take a
but-
time just because of the way that Board Game Geek does its ratings. It's quite sensible about it, so that games don't end up
You get like
straight in at the top as soon as they come out, because then that would
hyping and
the top 10 would end up changing every week.
keeps the marketing arseholes away, basically.
Aye.
Good point here.
So we'll give a Gloomhaven update. So we're going to try and do it as spoiler free as we possibly can. Now, we're still not that far into the game in terms of the number of quests we've done. We've only done 4 or 5, I think.
I think
What's
we are
going
on
on
our
4?
fifth scenario.
Fifth
I want to
scenario, maybe? Was that fifth one we played the other night there? Now, Dave, you're part of your group.
I am.
And we have recently, we've done a couple of story quests. We went off and did a side quest. Went back and did another story quest. So yeah, that was only our 4th session. All our characters are now hit level 2, so we've leveled up. We've had a look at the sort of cards that you can get for the different characters we're playing as.
Yeah.
Starting to get a bit more interesting in terms of like when you level up, you get to put new cards into your actual combat deck and stuff like that, which has become more interesting. Dave, you're the Cragheart.
I am the Cragheart.
And
I am the Cragheart.
you've added in a few leaf things, I
pumping
believe.
up the earth magic.
Yeah.
That's mainly what I've done so far. Mainly as a way to try and get more XP so that I can level up more quickly. Because a lot of my abilities that generate XP require me to burn the earth magic in order to get that XP.
Yeah.
all right.
Very selfish motivation.
But the game does promote, and we talked about this one of the last times we talked about Gloomhaven, that it does promote a sort of certain amount of selfishness from all the players.
No, that's fine. It doesn't surprise me that Dave would do that. I've felt his dagger on my back before.
I mean, they have justified it somewhat in saying that we're not friends as a party.
Yeah.
We're a band of mercenaries who are just out for whatever they
Yeah.
can get, pretty much. So that's the kind of thematic justification for some of
your
the
behaviour.
rules that are in there. Yeah.
Do you enjoy this particular setting, Dave? Does it feel
setting?
natural to you?
Yeah.
Playing a mercenary.
I would say the game is a little bit bonkers, though. Because although it's a cooperative game, sometimes it just feels like a mad dash.
Yeah.
Like for XP and for loot. Just like straight out the gates, like people are like, how can I generate the most XP and loot for this particular situation?
Yeah.
So Black Friday sort of in an RPG
Oh,
setting.
there's a definite real like capitalist exploitation vibe to the whole thing. But anything that has Euro mechanics in it kind of is inherently capitalist. They're all about profiting and
Are we getting
managing.
political again?
Yeah, well, why do we always get political?
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
Well, let's get back to Gloomhaven, though.
Aye.
They're not just you and cynical view of the world.
I do like that side of the game, but we've yet to fail a scenario. I think when that causes us to fail a scenario,
We have been very close.
We've been super close twice.
Yeah,
So-
there's a video coming up. I've got some work to do on it apparently. Of our not last session but the session before, and as I was discussing earlier the other day that I think that we might induce some nerd rage because of the amount of sort of backtracking we were doing, but. We were having. It is a game where if you're not careful, you can quite easily miss things, or you sort of, and it's quite difficult to backtrack. I think something.
You know what I like about it though? Well, Chris is going to laugh at this, but I don't think it really matters that much if you get little things wrong when you're playing this game.
You're saying that.
I know. See,
He didn't laugh. He looked annoyed.
You're saying. I'm just shocked that came out of Dave's mouth. Like.
Yeah. The reason Chris is saying this is 'cause somehow, unfairly, I seem to have gained a reputation for being a bit of a rules pedant.
Fairly. I'm actually convinced that Dave reads the errata in bed. That's the point that we're getting. Because Dave is always just stopping me from doing things and saying, "Oh yeah, you can't do that. You've got to do it this way instead."
He's keeping you following the rules of the game.
Yeah, but because he's looked them up online or whatever, it's the stuff that isn't clear in the rule book. Basically, Dave knows the answer. I'm pretty sure that he's reading the errata in bed at night.
There's a heap of stuff that I just let slide.
Well, that's even more concerning though. Because your understanding of the law of the land is.
Have we been playing this game completely wrong the whole time?
Not completely, just the little things.
No. Well, a little bit. But.
Okay, right, we'll figure this all out in the next clip. But back to actually how we're playing the game.
Well, we bumped up the difficulty level.
Yeah.
In this.
We have bumped up the difficulty.
Because we're all level 2.
We're all level 2, so we did the recommended thing of moving the monsters up. I mean, you get more gold and stuff and experience for completing quests like that.
Well, what you were saying before is probably holds true, but we have struggled.
Yeah.
In a couple of these, but it's been like certainly that one I was talking about before we got sidetracked about errata that was the closest we could come. We were basically within one move. It was all down to basically one thing: whether we killed this monster or not in somebody's last
gasp thing, basically,
move.
before they.
That's the close. But then it feels like we're getting to that stage in almost every scenario.
Yeah, was this the one with the tree and the one where I was the I was the last man.
No, it wasn't the tree. It was the one before that with the we had
in the crypt.
It was one of the first ones where we've been introduced to like slightly weirder monsters. We had these like elementals coming in. We had
demons.
cultists summoning these demons with various elemental powers, and they were pretty tough. And they tended to appear in not ideal ways. I think my character, the Tinkerer's got a lot of like AOE stuff, but it's fairly small and it's quite specific. And generally, I'll just chuck it at 2 guys if I need to, but you kind of wanted to get that third in. I went into the last room in that game, and it was basically every single monster. There was loads of monsters, but they were all spaced out by about. There was like one space between every one of them. So, yeah, that was really annoying.
So that's where my character comes in useful, because my character tends to have. I'm the Spellweaver. My character tends to have cards that are like, you target this many monsters as long as they're within a specific range. Dave, your character was crazy in that last game we played, in fact.
I had a lot of fun in that last game.
The Cragheart is insane.
So not at one point I leapt into the middle of the room, sort of like Hulk style.
You did, and smashed a rock.
Leaving a crater where from where I'd leapt off, I like damaged everyone around me from the power of my leap, and then jumped into a group of enemies and damaged them all of them from the impact of the landing. And then I got to hit them as well.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy, in fact. And there was a couple of rooms where me and Dave just basically cleared everything out.
I think it was definitely that one was your guys' time to shine.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the feeling I've been getting from this scenario is like, and because again the random elements of it, the way the initiative comes out, the way the things other people do affecting what you do. It's quite different every time, and it has felt like, I think the previous scenario where I was doing crazy stuff and sort of doing like taking out lots of enemies, I felt like, oh, this is going really well. That one was that last one we did where you guys were destroying everything was an absolute nightmare for me.
Yeah.
But then the previous one for you
was just
the same thing.
Yeah, I got absolutely pummeled in the first room and then struggled my way through the rest of the level. But the way that level was set up just didn't really work that well for my character. But yeah, I mean, I'm still absolutely loving this game. I can see why it's rocketing up the rankings. He's put up another Kickstarter already. This Isaac Childress, the guy that made this, he's already put up another Kickstarter to try and get a second printing made and to fix some of the things for people who have got the first printing. Because there are some mistakes, I think, that he's trying to fix. Changing like the HP and experience things so that they've got little dials instead of fiddly little tokens that don't really fit that well. Also strengthening the box, because that box is so big that there's that much air builds up inside it when you're trying to put the lid on that the box just burst into bits.
It does seem it's good. It's interesting that he's not really changing anything of the game mechanic. It's just the physical stuff.
Yeah, he's changing the physical stuff, but he's not changing any of the mechanics of the games. He doesn't. I mean, I would agree so far. There's nothing really wrong with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I believe there's not that many mistakes in the rulebook, which is actually quite amazing.
Yeah.
Given that I think there's clarifications going in for stuff, but I don't think there's that many errors.
I think one of the things is, though, that he released the rulebook early on Kickstarter while the campaign was going on, and the people that were backing it were reading it and fixing problems that were in it for him. So he had quite a big audience for that. A lot of people fixing things and pointing things out to him. So it was, it's a good way of getting things done. Yeah, to run a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Gloomhaven by Cephalofair Games and Isaac Childress, and we will have to wrap the episode up now, so we will give out all our internet stuff. Our email address is firstplayertoken@gmail.com, that's FIRST Player Token. We are on Facebook and Twitter and SoundCloud and iTunes and YouTube. You can find us there, the large and unnecessary First Player Token, or some of them just First Player Token. Twitter is @1ST Player Token.
Once Player Token.
Thanks, Euan.
Yeah.
Nearly missed it again. We have a website, just the same deal as last week, right? It's www.firstplayertoken.com.
It's not like anyone's been asking tough questions about the website.
I know, but
really grilling you.
Might be putting people off, though. We have a Discord. Ask us for the link for that. My Twitch username is Unnecessary Chris. I streamed the video game last night, actually, and we do stream board games on there as well. And we are part of the Podnose Network,
the UK's leading entertainment podcast network for all your podcast needs.
That voice gets smoother and smoother.
It does,
every
yeah.
week,
Well, I'm getting more practice at doing it. And you can still vote for us up until the 28th, the Listener's Choice Award for Podcast of the Year on the...
And I can't think of anyone more deserving.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I actually went through, I was having a wee look at it, and I realised that there's proper awards, and then there's the listeners, which is like the write-in ballot.
Right.
It's like that's like the people who write to the
people who get their mums to vote for them.
The people who write to the Oscars to get Jack Reacher nomination.
Okay, so we may not have an episode out next week. We're not really sure.
We're blaming Chris for that.
But yeah, I'll totally take the blame for that. So there may be an episode next week, there may not. But if not, we will be back with a video games episode in a couple of weeks if it's not out next week.
There's going to be Mass Effect in it.
Yes, Pawel's going to talk about Mass Effect. I'm pretty sure of that.
Oh, I've just realised I don't want to do an episode with just me and Pavel.
Okay.
Healthy choice.
Well, that's it for this week, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.